when you think of human evolution, do you ever stop to think, what are we going to be like a million years from now if we do survive? Have you ever done this sort of thought experiment where you say, okay, if things keep going the same way, we used to be very strong and very hairy, and we're getting progressively softer as we don't need to use our bodies as much. Our brains are getting larger, our heads are getting bigger. Do you do that sort of thought experiment to see what we're going to become? And
not in a systematic scientific way, because the process is so fraught with incredible detail that I think it's hard for anybody, even experts in evolutionary biology, to really tell us anything that will hold water, that's really predictive. But on a general level, I mean, because people often wonder, why is it that we haven't been visited by aliens, right? This is a thing that comes up whenever you're talking about other life inside the universe.
I was going to get to that in a minute with you.
But the answer to that could be quite straightforward. Nobody out there cares about us because we're so ill-developed. We're so young on the cosmic scene that there's nothing interesting for them to find here on planet Earth. So to me, there's a natural explanation for why there can be other life out there, and yet they don't hang out around planet Earth, just the way we don't hang around an anthill to try to have a conversation with, what's going on inside that particular structure.
I buy that argument the least.
You do? Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Because we're interested in butterflies. Butterflies are so boring. We're interested in moles. We're interested in squirrels.
We're interested in them for very specific reasons, right? So typically we're interested either because we want to see the evolutionary development that yields this particular life form, or because there's a general curiosity about how this object is put together. If these other beings are so far beyond us that those kinds of taxonomy questions are no longer of any interest, then hanging around here may not hold anything for them to make the journey and stick around long enough for us to notice.
I don't buy that, again, for two reasons. Okay. One, because why would we assume that they're so far beyond us that they wouldn't be interested in these talking monkeys with thermonuclear weapons who dominate an entire planet?
Yeah.
That would be fascinating. If we found some planet somewhere where people are, the politicians all lie to themselves, everyone gets video through the sky, they fly in metal tubes that hurl over the oceans.
Right.
They pollute the oceans and eat all the fish. Like, these people are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
We've got to go there and check this out.
But imagine that this civilization, the notion of lording over a planet is like us talking about, the ant lording over a grain of sand. So they may be galactic as opposed to planetary in their hegemony. Mm-hmm. And the notion of some little tiny rock orbiting some nondescript star in the suburbs of this completely ordinary galaxy off there on the side may not have the kind of pull that you imagine that it does.
Oh, I disagree. We think it's interesting when we see a chimp use a rock to open up a nut. We think it's interesting that, there's an amazing photograph of an orangutan that's spearfishing. Have you ever seen it?
I have seen that, actually.
It's really cool.
Right. No, it is.
He learned it from people, apparently, but it's still interesting nonetheless.
Right, but I don't think 100 years from now we're going to be as interested in these kind of qualities, or 1,000 years from now, or 10,000 years from now.
Well, why would we assume that these things that come here from another planet are more than 10,000 years
Well,
advanced?
that's a very good question. And I think the answer to that is we look at the history of the cosmos until today, and let's just call it our universe to be concrete, 13.8 billion years. And we look at life on planet Earth, and it's, a handful of billions of years old. So in a handful of billions of years, you can go from some complex molecules to human beings.
I like how you say it like it's not that long.
It's not that long because, imagine that life began a few billion years earlier in some other system, stars and galaxies, they were starting up, a billion years after the Big Bang. So it could be that life in other worlds has a head start on us by a few billion years. And we know what can happen in a few billion years. It can take us from single cell to us.
Sure.
And you can imagine from a few billion years from now into the future, it could be radically different. So to say it's 10,000 years ahead of us, that to me would be the unexplained coincidence. How unlikely that they started and we started within 10,000 years in the span of billions of years. That seems unlikely to me.
Is it?